Ready Check Radio. Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Relic Grind, Ready Check Radio's Final Fantasy XIV Square Enix podcast. It's June 2nd. Oh my god, we're almost halfway through this year already. And this is episode 68. We're doing it live, twitch.tv/ReadyCheckRadio. Although if you're listening on Audible, iTunes, Spotify, any of those, or watching on YouTube, come on over to ReadyCheckRadio.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see all the socials for Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. Give them all a follow. Do your thing there if you like what we do here. It's the easiest way to support us with a subscribe, a follow, a like, a comment, all that fun stuff. Of course, we got Final Fantasy XIV news to talk about today, but right before the show, PlayStation's State of Play, Sony State of Play went up, and we did, in fact, get a little Square Enix news, a little bit. So we figure, we'll throw it on the show here and talk about that when we get to it. Joining me to go over all the goodness, Mr. Chris Montoya, a.k.a. Tarkoth. What's up, sir?
Greetings, programs. I'm just super excited that Forspoken's release date's pretty much firm. We don't have to worry about it really being delayed because of other miscellaneous titles. So I'm excited to get play of that this fall.
Well, I mean, it may still be delayed.
Well, it's not going to be delayed because of other titles.
It's not going to be delayed for other reasons. Yeah, just fixing your camera shot here as on the fly. There we go. Won't be delayed for reasons that we talked about on last week's show that were rumored. We'll get to that in a little bit. Also on the line, Mr. Adam Lane, the Kronos One himself. What's up?
You just jinxed it, man. Now it's going to get delayed.
Oh, no, it's definitely going to get delayed.
Yeah.
It just won't be. But so here's the thing. Okay, fine. So Final Fantasy XVI did drop its trailer during Sony's State of Play. Let me back my camera out a little bit here. Did drop 16's trailer. We're going to talk about that. We'll show the trailer. Obviously, it just happened, so we've had like enough time to maybe watch it 5-6 times, something like that. So you'll be getting gut reactions,
about five,
plus some additional information from the PlayStation blog. But just to to circle around on something we did talk about last week, the possibility that Forspoken would have yet another delay. And the rumor was that it would be to make way or to at least make room for Final Fantasy XVI. At the end of the trailer, gang, we did see 16 being released or given a release window of summer 2023. Now, a delay on Forspoken really doesn't make sense to me, right? Because right now, it's sitting in that 5 to 7 months away slot, as is right now. So any delay just gets it closer to 16, which, Kronos, I can't for the life of me think you even remotely want to do.
I mean, you don't. I think you have a little bit of wiggle room, though. Sadly.
A little.
I think,
you could put it at the beginning of the fiscal year for them, but...
Yeah, I think like March is like the latest, like as close as you want to get to 16, I think.
Well, so the thing is, their fiscal year, though, that wouldn't work, Tark, as far as getting it early in the fiscal year. Their fiscal year runs through March.
Okay, so early April then. That's still 5 months between.
I know. Do really? Like, would they get it that? So let's say if that comes out in the beginning of April to just like kind of get a quick, nice cash flow in on the first, the beginning of the fiscal year. Summer is what? End of May through end of July-ish, beginning of August-ish.
No, end of June till end of September.
No, when's the summer solstice?
End of June.
June 21st.
It's still spring right now.
Well, I know it's still spring right now, you dip. So I don't know. I don't think you put it in April and then have Final Fantasy XVI come out in like June, July, end of June, early July.
I just assume when you give a window like that, it's always late in the window.
Yeah, well, it is Yoshi-P we're talking about too.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I was thinking August, September. So I was like,
okay, we'll get back to it. We'll get back to it.
I don't think it's being delayed. So
I think it's going to. We'll put our predictions sure to go wrong on that one when we get there then. How's the ultimate progress in 14 going? What's up, Tark?
Let's see. This last Tuesday, we finally had our full group of 8, and it was glorious. I'm hoping to go 2 for 2 on Thursday, and maybe we'll have wrapped up our group roulette that we've been having, or revolving door that we've been having the last couple weeks. So, but we did see like 17, 18 Nidhogg's, and we've done some practice sessions outside. So I have a feeling we're gonna get some firm progress tonight. I'm excited.
We shall see. You'll have to let us know next week. Kronos, what about you and the squad?
We've seen Enrage on Eyes a few times. So, I mean, it's probably not much longer before we're back to fighting Thornton for the run back.
Nice. Both of you making some nice progress. All right. Tark, did you make it for the housing lottery, just to kind of update us on your personal gameplay?
So, we talked about it last week, and I was like, yep, we're going to do that. And then I did Ultimate, and then I went to bed. And next thing I know, people were talking about how they got their house, and I forgot to even put in a bid. So, no.
Good stuff. Hey, way to capitalize on that new get a house system, Tark.
Good job.
Well, for those of you that maybe are looking for a little MGP out there, don't forget the Make It Rain event is on. You're good to go. So if you need some MGP from the Gold Sasa, get your butt over there. Now, update to a topic we talked about last week, and since we're going to kind of set the our expectations for 6.15, we'll throw this here. Last week, we were talking about the PvP changes implemented in 6.1.1, particularly for Black Mage, and a bunch of buffs that were given across the board. And we laughed about how, yeah, this does seem maybe a little overpowered. Maybe there'll be some more tweaks down the road. Well, less than a few hours after our show ended last week, Yoshi-P released a statement saying, yeah, we pulled the trigger a little too fast on those Black Mage changes. We went a little fast there, and we probably should have held them back and changed them in 6.1.5 after some more testing. We think, yes, you should be strong, but you should also be more of a glass cannon. That's the whole idea of Black Mage. Particularly, it should be a little harder to get to limit break, because that's when you, as a Black Mage, particularly in something like Crystalline Conflict, are at your deadliest, when you have the ability to pop limit break. And that all of these changes were making skilled Black Mages in PvP, Kronos, just ridiculous. Like, they didn't even need to make it to limit break. They were just ridiculous. So in addition to changes we were already going to see across some classes in 6.1.5 as the PvP balances continued to be tweaked over these subsequent patches, some of those Black Mage changes are going to be scaled back / nerfed a little bit. I don't think there's any surprises here. Maybe for me, the only surprise was how fast Yoshi-P said something.
I think it's because of the win rates of like
shot up.
Like once the patch came out and everybody knew it was kind of cracked. I just saw posts everywhere of like, hey, look, I did a new account and I took it to Crystal in like 2 days on Black Mage. Stuff like that.
Yeah, and he did talk about in his post how they are looking specifically at win rates and class selection. Yeah,
I didn't really like that post, I'll be honest.
Why?
I think they're looking at some wrong numbers. I don't know, because I think just looking at play rate, they seem like, based on like what he said, is like play rate's the most important thing. And like, I think you do have to look at win rate a bit. Like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm just worried that like they're going to keep trying to buff up these other jobs while ignoring some of the problems with like jobs that are really good. And because they're afraid to like make someone mad, I guess, like if they take something away. I don't know. We'll see. I need to see like what they actually changed. But the way he worded some of that stuff, it just doesn't really it didn't really seem like it had like a PvP mindset to me, which I mean, it's pretty par for the course in this game previously. Like, so I mean, we'll see. I'm hopeful that maybe I just misinterpreted some things, but the way I read it, I wasn't really a huge fan of how they're going about balancing jobs and PvP particularly.
Tark, any of the changes, or at least the proposed kind of, here's the idea of what we're going to do, if not actual potency changes, any of them surprise you?
No, we all kind of laughed at it. It was just like, you and Yoshi, man, you got together and you just buffed yourselves to all hell.
It was nice. It was nice. It was nice while it lasted.
While it lasted. But so I just laughed at that whole situation. Yeah, they probably should have taken just that extra couple week or two to maybe iron some things out. But yeah, I think the play rate is not the way to go. They should be looking more about win rates. Yeah, I'm kind of out of my element with PvP. This is the first game that I've really dived into PvP, so I still enjoy it. I think Sage needs lots of buffs. I mean, give me all the buffs, please. Give me Black Mage buffs. There we go.
Well, I mean, to be fair, though, the post does talk first, Kronos, about win rates. Like, yeah. That's where he goes first, and then talks about job usage rates. So I'm not understanding why you think they might be focused on the wrong area.
It seems like, based on how I read it, that they're more focused on making everything be played the same amount than they are worried about the power level of some things. Which is also kind of flawed too, because some people are just going to play their favorite job. Like, okay, I'm coming from a fighting game thing, right? Like, a lot of people will pick like whatever the best character is. Like, as soon as it comes out and the data's there, they're like, okay, Ryu's the best Street Fighter character. I'm playing Ryu. But you're going to have those people that are like, I don't like Ryu, dude. I'm playing Blanca. He might be the worst character in the game, but that's my dude, right? And I think that's a thing here too, right? You got these people that are playing PvP, and they're like, well, I like Reaper, right? So I'm going to play Reaper in PvP, obviously, because I really like Reaper. And that doesn't really show how strong the job is, right? Like, I mean, you need to look at like everything in totality, instead of just like being like, I want all jobs to be played equally. Like, I think that's kind of like naive, personally.
There's always going to be a meta, especially with competitive PvP. So
yeah, and everybody's always going to like find what's good. Like, it's going to happen. It's the internet. They're going to look up something. And they did
specifically say that one of the stats they look at is they want all the classes to come in as close to 50% win rate as possible. And when classes start achieving much higher than 50 is when they start taking these
here's the issue with that
approaches. But
here's the issue with that too.
Go ahead.
Right?
I was just going to say there is an issue with it.
Because
go ahead. I don't want to step on you.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt either. But like, why I think you need to look at it in totality, right? Is because what does win rate do if there's a white mage on both sides? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
one's going to win, one's going to lose.
One's going to lose, you know? So it's, you have to look at it. You have to look at everything.
50% is 50%.
50% of the time, it works 100% of the time.
And I don't want to spend any more real time on this particular thing. One, it's PvP. And two,
get a cigarette.
and two, it's not very specific yet. Like, we won't see this until we see patch notes. Just for those of you interested, though, there are, in this discussion, additional changes coming to balance adjustments, particularly in front lines, when it comes to damage taken and damage dealt, and frequency of being able to use the limit breaks. So this wasn't just about, hey, we overpowered Black Mage, we got to roll this back. That was a very small piece of, we have PvP fixes to make across the board, and we're going to start making some more of them in 6.15. But here's a specific apology for us over buffing the hell out of Black Mages.
I'm just encouraged that they're really going after PvP and really working on it to keep it fresh content.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, and Niabari's not wrong. It's like, you know, people actually cared enough to make it vocal on Twitter and forums and stuff. And when's the last time that happened for anything PvP related? So I guess a step in the right direction if you're a PvP fan. Speaking of 6.15, we're just a few days away now, 5 days away. It'll be coming out on the 7th. I'm sure we'll give our initial impressions of some of the content, sparse as it is, but there is some content worth reviewing there when we get to next Thursday's show. So what do we got? Well, first off, I mean, Hildebrand, right? I mean, that's the part everybody cares about. The rest of it, it's just all Hildy all the time. I am very happy to see the detective back. It's been far too long, and I'm one of those people that initially did not like Hildebrand. He grew on me.
Like a fungus, yep.
Yeah, he definitely, like a fungus, grew on me. So we're going to get the Hildebrand quests. And all the main site has been updated, too, so that you get some new pictures and some new patch stuff in there as well if you want to take a look. We're going to kick off. Now, these two things we didn't know for sure. We knew they were part of the 6.1 series, but we didn't know where they'd fit. But 6.1 is going to bring us Chronos Omega and Tataru's adventures as well.
Yeah, you could kind of assume. But yeah, I mean, they didn't really like... And then also the Emilian stuff, right? And then Beast Tribe as well.
Beast Tribe?
Yep,
Tribe.
we're getting
Just
the
tribe.
tribal quests. Tribal quests. Tribal
Arcosodara.
quests.
Whatever, man.
What are you guys
They're not beasts,
expecting?
they're people.
What are you guys expecting out of like the Omega stuff? Are you what do you think's going to happen along those lines there?
I don't know.
Maybe some story thread connecting what happened with the dragons and the Omicrons, and then him finally coming here, maybe?
Yeah, we know the story picks up from where some flight logs are uncovered back on the Ragnarok. That's kind of where we're starting. That's where we're starting. But where we go from there, I don't know. I don't know. Custom deliveries to the twins' mommy. Of course, you'll have to be all set for those. I mean, it's not a huge patch, but I feel like for a .15, there's actually a fair amount here. That we don't tip. I guess it depends on like how in depth Tataru and Omega is, though,
and if it's repeatable or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, we assume Hildy isn't going to be repeatable, right?
Yeah, and that's not going to be. I don't think the Omega stuff's going to be.
I don't think that is, and I don't think Tataru is either. Obviously, the tribal quests will be repeatable, as in you have dailies to do. And then the turn-ins, the crafting stuff with the leveliers, that'll be repeatable. But that's like traditionally repeatable content. Mm-hmm. It's not really anything new coming to the front. I do think it is a little beefy for a 1.5. So I'm kind of okay with it. You know, I got a couple different quest line things to go do. And, you know, if I get a couple hours out of it, cool. It's not like I expect a ton out of my .15s anyway, Kronos.
Yeah, no, from that content perspective, it's pretty big. You're gonna get like your typical other stuff too, I'm assuming. Like obviously, there's gonna be big PvP changes. They haven't said it yet, but I assume the season's gonna reset.
I believe it's supposed to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to. Yeah.
So that'll probably come with a lot of people going back in, maybe or maybe not. Maybe. We'll see.
Like I said last show, you know, the people that have already finished their series, you know, what's the point? You know, of them coming back to do a new season if there's no series rewards to do. So,
Bari says season resets 6/18.
Okay, did they? Okay. Said? So it comes with the travel, then the server trip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the data center stuff. 6/18. Sorry, 6/18. Yeah. Okay. So Yoshi-P, in his interviews, in his travels, this one was actually with the We Are Vanity L site, the 20th anniversary stuff of Final Fantasy XI. So he brought up jobs as they relate to Final Fantasy XIV, gang, specifically like the inspiration Final Fantasy XI has had on 14 when they create jobs. Okay, that's fine. And I'm sure we've talked about that on before. We've talked about like, hey, could Beastmaster and maybe it'd be a limited? Do we really want that, et cetera, et cetera? But he said something a little unique here that he hasn't said before. And he said at some point, he believes that the team will have no choice but to come up with brand new jobs that haven't appeared in the Final Fantasy series before. Now, going back, he did talk a little bit about feeling like with an expansion, adding jobs is a requirement. And there's a couple different things that I don't know if I necessarily agree with here with this assertion. One, is it nice to have new jobs to play? Of course. Do I think it's a requirement for every expansion? Not if it leads to jobs that feel very, I don't know, a lack of a better term, copy-pasted versions of other jobs with slightly different flavors. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. And if you look at the cadence, right, we get, 2 jobs every expansion. and let's say they do hold their end of the bargain up and continue Final Fantasy XIV for 10 years, that's going to be 5 expansions. So let's say they add 2, that's going to be 10 jobs. On that cadence, 2 per expansion, do you really have to break out of the mold of creating new jobs that haven't existed in Final Fantasy? With the caveat that Yoshi-P did say, it's not just about creating a job that may have existed in Final Fantasy, but it's about giving that job the unique flavor of that job from previous Final Fantasies in 14. And as we've seen with Blue Mage and thoughts on Beastmaster, maybe that just doesn't work and limits the pool of jobs they can pull from to this point where he feels they're going to have to create new jobs at some point, Tark.
I kind of got a big, well, no duh. And then they're going to have to, I mean, the pool's going to have to run out at some point. There's going to have to be something that they create themselves. Just like they create primals, just specifically for 14. Why can't they make jobs for 14 that are unique to them? So I just got a big, okay, yeah, I kind of expected that.
See, I don't have a problem with them doing it.
I don't have a problem.
I don't have a problem with them doing it at all. Great, give me a new job to mess around with. But the idea that you're going to have to, I think, is a bit forward-looking and a bit
like 20 years down the road kind of thing.
Yeah, a bit optimistically forward-looking, Kronos.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is a bunch of bull. Honestly. I mean, look at Sage. Sage is a classic job. That thing does nothing like what it does in any Final Fantasy game. They can do that. It doesn't matter. As long as the job's fun, it doesn't matter. I think they're more worried about the expectation that people have, like you said, of like classic jobs. And like, I guess Sage isn't more of like a blood one, but like Red Mage, right? Some people like, well, I want my Red Mage to heal more. And it's like, well, that doesn't really work in Final Fantasy because then it would be super unbalanced, you know? Like, So that's kind of like we get the version of Red Mage that we have. It's not that Vercure is bad. It's just, you know, it's not like
I think their bubble is broken. It's busted.
Magic Barrier is pretty good. Yeah.
Do you feel like they have to put new jobs in to expansions, whether it be 1, 2, 3, whatever? No restriction on the number of them. But do you think at least one new job is required for every expansion?
Yes.
I think they've set the precedent. Yeah, that like if they don't, a lot of people would be disappointed. Personally, I'd rather they pay more attention to what we have existing because there's some problems with what we already have. But I understand that for some people coming to a new expansion, they want to just play the new job. They don't really care. You know, they just want to see something new and flashy.
It's a selling point for an expansion. They got the new job. Look at this. Shiny over here.
It would be like a minus.
No doubt it's a selling point. No doubt it's a draw for, you know, hey, let's bring back some returning players. Let's give new players something to do. But if it starts to become... I don't want them to have in this mind space, right? We have to create 2 new jobs every expansion. And then one of these expansions end up with a job that is just like a slightly diluted Dragoon, right? Or a slightly diluted White Mage. I would rather the mentality not be so focused on, do I want jobs every expansion? Absolutely. 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 Do I want them there because, like I've said about PvP in the past, they meet a checkbox? No. I don't want them like, here's our expansion, new dungeons, check, new zones, check, 2 new jobs. Hey, what are we doing for the next one, guys? What are the 2 new jobs? Well, I mean, we got this one really, really good job and this one that's kind of just a ripoff of a Red Mage in a slightly different variant. Sure, let's push both of them. I would rather the focus be on, if we want to put jobs in the expansion, don't put a number on it, first off. If you get to 1, great. If you get to 3, great. And have them actually different than other jobs, because honestly, there are a couple jobs already in the game, Kronos, that feel very, very similar to other jobs in the game.
I hear what you're saying, but I think they do all these things by design. Like, I think we joke about the checkbox thing, but they already do that with everything.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a joke.
It's why they're so predictable, and in some ways it's a good thing, in some ways it's a bad thing. Like 2 jobs is basically already become a checkbox, and even further than that, they have to like keep the jobs even, right? So like next expansion it's probably going to be like caster and a scouting job. Like, you can probably already make that prediction. I'm not saying that's like 100%, but that's a good guess. So it's like they already kind of do it. I do think eventually they're going to go to just one job, probably, because
maybe not this expansion, but maybe the following one.
I think they have to, because you end up in this cadence of development where you spend so much time, an increasing amount of time, by the way, every expansion, rebalancing everything. Yep. Rebalancing everything, not just your 2 new jobs, but everything you had before it. And now here's 2 more, so you have to rebalance them and everything you have had before it, which includes the 2 new jobs you added last time. I don't know if you can keep up that cadence without, A, expanding the size of your team periodically, which maybe they're willing to do. B, change your development schedule around to accommodate more and more time for those balance sweeps that we're like seeing in the .1s all the way through now. Do I love 2 jobs? Yeah. Do I want them to go away from it? No, absolutely not. But I would just rather, kind of looking at it from a software engineering standpoint and not a fan standpoint. I don't know how sustainable it is 10 years down the road when the game is 20 years old.
It's not. I mean, just think about like the job action trailer is already 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
So just imagine
state of play.
Yeah, if there's 10 more jobs in 10 years, that's 30 jobs, counting Blue Mage. So let's say 29. So your job action trailer is going to be like an hour.
Yeah.
So.
It's a call. I promise if they ever go one job, the perception of the game will be on Star Trek Online Lotro levels, B or C tier game. I think you're out of your mind. I think you're way wrong on that one. Do I think there is absolutely a perception issue if you go from 2 jobs to none? Yes. If you go from 2 to 1, is there one? Yeah, but I don't think it's anywhere near the levels of all of a sudden you're a dying game. No, I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. But it does become unsustainable at a certain level. At a certain level, without increasing funds and increasing resources, which right now they're perfectly willing to do because the game is scraping in money. Yeah, it's scraping in money hand over fists. Will it be 5 years from now and Square's willing to throw as much money as needed at it? I don't know. Will it be 10 years from now? No. The game is going to degrade over time naturally to the point that Square is not going to be willing to throw the resources into it that they are certainly willing to throw at it now. At some point, you have to reevaluate all of your development plans, whether it's jobs or dungeons or savage raids or whatever.
Yeah, just like to piggyback on that too, like the most played jobs aren't even really the new jobs. Funny enough, they're like the classic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like White Mage is like by far and away the most popular job in the game, and then it's like Black Mage. I think it's different when you get to like in-game stuff, but like just in general, like more people play the classic stuff than they play the newer stuff. That's just how it is.
We'll see. I do like the idea of jobs that aren't in other Final Fantasies, but I just don't agree with the assertion that we're going to have to at some point. I think that's a bit optimistic.
You can just name it. Like, I'm just saying Sage is a prime example. Just call it a Green Mage and do whatever the hell you want with it. And like still a Green Mage name.
Hey, the Twitter account finally hit 500,000 followers. Congrats to the Final Fantasy XIV Twitter account. And check this out. I don't know if you saw this. Let me pull up the picture here. That is Yoshi-P. NGC, a Japanese streaming studio that streams different Final Fantasy XIV tabletop game, kind of like a very Dungeons and Dragons-esque type thing, except set in Eorzea and all that fun stuff. They invited Yoshi-P to play, and he ended up so immersed that he played until 4 a.m.
Oh.
Also, there was Alphino's voice actor, Shinosuke Takibana. And then we've got some translated highlights, so thank you so much to Kageyama Satsuki for these translations. They're over on their Twitter if you want to see more. But Yoshi-P was apparently predictably playing a Gil-obsessed Black Mage who continuously, like, along the entire path was just like, well, how much gil you got if anybody needed help. So, yeah, he got sucked in and ended up playing until 4 in the morning. 4 in the morning. So there you go. A little tabletop RPG action in Eorzea sucked Yoshi-P in. See? It's addictive.
You know, with the bags under his eyes, that might be his normal bedtime.
Yeah, maybe. He was so hyped up on coffee and nicotine, he couldn't go to bed. He couldn't go to sleep.
Too funny.
So let's slide over now and talk about some other Square Enix news. And like we talked about at the top of the show, obviously big news today as Sony's State of Play reveals from Square Enix a new trailer for Final Fantasy XVI. Final Fantasy XVI. Now, we were going to talk about 16 regardless today because there was an article put up on RPG Site by Alex Donaldson that I thought was really worth getting some opinions on. And as it turns out, seeing this trailer, it might provoke more opinions on Mr. Donaldson's article. But first, let's talk about the trailer itself. We've got the trailer. We've got a release window, summer 2023. So next year, Forspoken, not going to be delayed because of this, but who knows if it'll get delayed again anyway. I think it will. Tark thinks it will not. Kronos, do you have an opinion?
I think it's probably going to get delayed. I just assume everything gets delayed in this day and age. So,
the ultimate pessimist.
What'd you think of the trailer, Kronos? We'll start with you. Just your gut reaction. Again, this just happened within the last hour. We've had a chance to watch it maybe half a dozen times each in prep for the show. So we'll probably revisit this next week on just like the more minute analysis like we did on the last one. But your gut reaction, your initial thoughts so far.
Yeah, so I watched it as much as I could, at least, before the show. I thought I'd be more hype, I think. It's really where I'm at. It's weird. Like, I'm excited for it. I am. I just thought I'd be more excited, I guess. And I think the article in particular maybe kind of like is a reason why. Like, that reason. I just watch it and I'm just like, man, I just look at it and it's hard for me not to see Devil May Cry, honestly.
True.
Well, and we've talked about that before too. We've talked about that before because Ryota Suzuki left Capcom, went to Square Enix, was working on unknown projects at the time. That was the combat design lead or the design lead on Devil May Cry 5. When we saw the first trailer, we speculated that, hey, this might be the game he's working on. This does kind of look like Devil May Cry-ish combat, and I think this trailer just solidifies it as far as what's going on there.
Yeah, because it looks like the summons are almost just like weapons in a way. Like,
well, I mean, the trailer was enough, but on the PlayStation blog, combat design is Ryota Suzuki. It is confirmed now. Yeah. Yeah, the development staff was introduced, like 8 positions of them, like localization, of course, is Koji Fox, and Yoshi-P's producer and stuff like that, and Hiroshi Takai is directing, but Suzuki is the combat designer, so we were right on that one, and it doesn't take a genius to see that watching this trailer. Yeah.
The HUD's kind of weird to me, too, a little bit, and that could just be, like, not finished anyways. I feel like there's just floating text for the sake of being floating text to be like, oh, Final Fantasy.
That gave me a reminder of the kind of the aesthetic of Final Fantasy XIII, a little bit of a futuristic kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, you did have a couple views of different things. Obviously, we saw a ton of summons in this. We saw a ton of them. I forget what do they call them? Eidolons in this one? Icons. Just pick a name, guys. We saw a ton of them. Shiva, Ifrit, Ra, they're all flashed at the end, their names and everything. But in addition to like the sparse HUD and some combat gameplay, we did see what kind of looked like, Capcom had showed off Street Fighter VI earlier in the State of Play. And then we got our own, like Tarkoth, we got our own Street Fighter VI with some summons just, blasting into each other with their own little health bars across the top of the screen, a la Street Fighter.
Taking off each other's limbs. That was pretty dope. I actually kind of like that little fighting boss battle aesthetic one-on-one on the summons. So it's not just us versus summons. So that was pretty cool. I liked it.
So to go back to Alex Donaldson's piece, the premise of the piece was asking the question, does it really matter if Final Fantasy XVI doesn't have a traditional party system, as in you control multiple NPCs? Not saying turn-based, but saying a party system as in controlling multiple people. And Alex, describes basically the stuff that we've been talking about prior and some stuff that we see from the trailer today. Who's the combat design? What does that kind of tell us? What did the first trailer tell us? Alex didn't have the benefit of this trailer, which really kind of, I think, cemented in my mind that this is a single-player RPG. Like, this is not a party-based thing.
Single protagonist RPG.
Yeah. This is not even like a Final Fantasy XV where you have your AI compatriots with you, or some of the previous Final Fantasies with like the Gambit systems and stuff like that. No, this looks like go Clive, go. Tarkin. And that's it. Are you okay with that? And as a sub question, are you okay with it being a Final Fantasy mainline numbered series adopting what looks to be a non-party formula?
So this is pretty raw reactions. Like, I'm okay with it, but I feel it's going to be missing something, because a lot of that inter-party banter and relationships bouncing off each other.
You're still likely to have that, right? Like interaction with NPCs, common characters, like Clive's he's protecting, you're certainly going to interact, but from everything we've seen so far, it's not like, you may be swapping between characters here and there. It doesn't appear to be that, at least yet.
Yeah, and again, I'm okay with combat being like that, but I'm like, outside of combat, I think we're going to be missing some inter-party relationships that we're grown accustomed to through 15 mainline entries. So I'm okay with it, but I think it's just, at the end of the day, there might be something missing, like from the core of its story.
Chronos, some of the ones that lately, Final Fantasy XV, I've already mentioned. Yes, it was you played Noctis, but there was still a party involved. Then we see Final Fantasy Origins Stranger of Paradise, where you are Jack, but yes, there is still a party, and you can mildly do some things with control of, the type of characters your party will be, if not giving them directions in particular. What do you think? Would you have rather something like this been an offshoot in the Final Fantasy world, or are you like that purist that is like, my mainline series need to be party based? Like, where do you fall when you look at this?
I'm kind of like with Tarkin away. I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not gonna like not buy it because of that, but I'm not like really happy about it, I guess. Like, I could be sold on it. Like, maybe after I play it, I'll feel differently. But I think, like, just to touch on, like, the 50...
Maybe after I play it, I'll feel different. I could be sold on it. I'll tell you what. I'll buy it and play it and let you know if I feel differently.
Look, I know a sucker when I see one, and I'm damn sure a sucker, okay? I'm not fronting on that. But, like, I don't know. If you look at 15, like, even though before they updated it and you couldn't play and you only played as Noctis, the best part of that game was the party. Like, even though you couldn't play as them, the best part of the game was just like traversing and listening to like banter and like getting like the story of like the boys or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And it feels like to me like this, I mean, probably pre-time skip, because obviously there's going to be a time skip in this game. Maybe you'll get more interaction with other stuff, but then post-time skip, it looks like you're just going to be playing like some kind of loner emo badass. And like, I don't really know how much he's going to really interact with people outside of punching them. So, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. And then like go ahead.
No, I was just saying, newest girl in chat says, I love DMC style games, so this
I
doesn't
love
bother me at all.
I
do too.
Combat doesn't bother me. It's
like when I want to go play DMC, I go play DMC. When I want to play Final Fantasy, I play Final Fantasy. Yeah. Like, there's specific things that I look for in both of those games. Will this one be different for me in that regard? Yeah, but Final, like I said, Final Fantasy, I mean, really from what? 12 on? like the whole idea of a party has been pretty loose anyway, right?
Sure.
With when you had the Gambit systems and in 13,
So-
like that story went all the way through, and then you were just lightning at the end. Then 15 kind of sets you up with just being Noctis, and yeah, these other bros are there, and you can do a little bit of stuff with them. But I mean, it's all we've kind of worked our way down to this. But that does leave us back with a question we asked a long time ago on this show: is Square ever going to do turn-based RPGs
no,
for
absolutely
mainline consoles?
No, that's
not. Absolutely
or are they done and they're relegating that to Bravely Default and the sequels and offshoot games like that for handhelds
offshoot
and
niche
Switch.
games. Yeah, that makes me sad.
So like I guess I agree with where you're coming from, like when you make that like assessment. But the party still existed, and the characters are still there, and development and story still happened around.
No doubt,
characters.
yeah. To
And,
Tark's point, that stuff still happened, even if you couldn't say fight, defend, steal, whatever.
And you look back at like 12, and you can look at 12, and you can have that conversation of like, "Oh, what's your favorite character?" Right? 'Cause that it's not the main character for most people. And even like
Bosch.
13,
The
where
true
like
answer is Bosch.
like 13, where you could only really play as your lead character, like you still had like character development, even if you hate the game. And 15 had that too, even though you only played as Noctis. Like, I mean, I liked Ignis. I thought Ignis was a really cool character. He's probably my favorite character in the game, even though you couldn't play as him until later. So I'm gonna kind of be missing that, because now basically your favorite protagonist is forced to be Clive. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
And we talked about this is on Niabari saying it in chat. We said it on last week's show. We kind of looked at maybe Dragon Quest carrying that party play, but then we saw, or we're given information on Dragon Quest 12 being more action oriented. So, like, we were like, okay, well then there goes the idea of Dragon Quest carrying the turn-based battles, party stuff on. I'm sure that I'm going to enjoy aspects of this game. It's going to sell like gangbusters. Not only is it a mainline Final Fantasy, but you've got Naoki Yoshida behind it. I mean, that's going to move millions of copies, whether it's good or not, for better or for worse, right? If it's not good, it's still going to sell well, unfortunately. Am I looking forward to it? Yes, absolutely. Am I a little bit tempered on it? Maybe. But there is still that kid in me heart, Tark, that is like, man, could I have a sweet ass looking turn-based RPG in my Final Fantasy at some point? Like, give me that.
Yes, you can. It's
My
called
turn-based
Remake.
sweet ass RPG always has to be these remakes of ones I've bludgeoned to death hundreds of times.
You think 9 Remake has to be turn based? Because I sure don't.
I think it's going to be.
God.
Well, we'll see, I guess.
Have you played 7 Remake? Let me introduce
Yes.
you.
Right.
I mean, technically that was turn-based.
Release window,
Action turn-based. Yeah.
summer of 2023. Anybody surprised? Is it earlier, later than you thought?
My tweet was dope trailer, but the release date gave me a big homer. Oh,
Why?
because it's over a year away. I want it sooner.
Yoshi-P in the PlayStation blog says you could play it from start to finish right now. He said you could play it from start to finish, but obviously they still have a lot to do with optimization, polish, beta testing, bug testing, that type of thing. But as far as the narrative gameplay, you can start and work and go through the entire thing right now.
That seems like a lot of time to.
I'm kind of not surprised by it. I would have been surprised had Forspoken been delayed for Final Fantasy XVI. While I think it would have made sense, and I said as much on last week's show, absolutely, if you can do it, it honestly would have surprised me that 16 was in that much shape. I kind of thought, though, Tark, like first quarter-ish, like a February, March release. I am a little surprised that it's slipping to summer. Little surprised by that.
I am too.
And unfortunately, I mean, for those of you, that want to get your hands on this, you better get a PlayStation 5 between now and then, because that's all it's going to be on initially.
Oh, is that confirmed?
That was confirmed back when we saw the first trailer, that it was PlayStation 5, footage captured from PlayStation 5, and then they said won't be available on any other platforms until a limited time after release on the PlayStation 5. So this isn't even going to have a PlayStation 4 release, at least initially, if ever.
Good.
Yeah, what was the exact quote here? Let me find it. The following content is captured on the PC emulating the PS5 experience. The next entry in the Final Fantasy saga will not be available on other platforms for a limited time after release on the PlayStation 5. So will we eventually see a PC? Probably, like like we did with Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 a year and a half later, see it on PC. Could we see it on Xbox at some point? Sure, why not? I doubt it coming out summer of next year that they're then going to go back and port a PS4 version of it. I don't think that would happen, but it's not impossible, I guess. But initially, got to get a PS5. So, yeah.
Good to go.
I did like all of the summons fighting. It did look pretty awesome. The HUD is looking pretty sparse, though, Kronos.
I'm not a big fan. Also, like when they're fighting with the health bars, it's Ifrit every time. I think that says a lot, too. Just
I don't think it was.
No. The health bars always have Ifrit.
No, one said Phoenix on the left.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, I can't fast forward this, but we'll let it play.
I'm pretty sure Clive is Ifrit.
Yeah.
I'm kind of leaning towards that being a thing.
Oh,
and it looks like
well, that was kind of teased in the first one.
And it looks like the dominant thing is basically just Naruto. So like,
yeah, newest girl confirming that I'm right. Yeah, it was Phoenix versus Icon of Fire in one of the sequences.
Well, the Icon of Fire is Ifrit though.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So, what do you got on your lap there?
Just a little Lollapalooza.
Right. No. I agree, Kronos. But if we're presuming that the left-hand side of the screen is the player-controlled character, you were not Ifrit every time.
Yeah, all I'm saying is I would bet that if you're playing as Phoenix, you're playing as Joshua in that scenario. Because I'm pretty sure
that sounds fair.
Yeah, and we kind of thought that after based on the first trailer. Yeah.
Out of the ones that were shown, what is your favorite? What's your favorite summon that you saw?
Shiva looked badass.
I thought
I touched her up a bit.
Yeah, Shiva looked really cool. Really
I like Garuda. I think Garuda looked.
I mean, Odin looked pretty badass too.
It was either Odin or Bahamut for me, I think.
I don't know. I mean, I love the design of Bahamut, but to me, it was kind of like, okay, so they just used Final Fantasy XIV's Bahamut. It was really just like, yoink.
They also used Final Fantasy XIV's Limit Break bar. It's like just
that's
there.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. If it's not broken, why fix it?
That's true. That is true. All right. On to more. Oh, by the way, remember, Square Enix will be part of the Summer Games Showcase coming up early June here, actually in like a little over a week. In addition to a bunch of other partners, Square Enix will be there, so we, of course, will keep you posted on any news coming out of Summer Games on subsequent shows. And we do want to give our congratulations and well wishes to Shinji Hashimoto, retiring from Square Enix. Had been the brand manager for Final Fantasy at one point, oversees a bunch of business decisions as far as marketing it, has been either the producer or executive producer on pretty much every Final Fantasy installment since the original Final Fantasy VII. Tuesday, today, May 31st, I will be retiring. I would like to thank everyone in various fields for their support during my tenure. From now on, I would like to support you as a Square Enix fan. Thank you very much. I mean, yeah, if you're going to retire, the 35th anniversary is definitely a good time to do it, right? It's definitely a good time to walk away. So well wishes from all of us here at Ready Check Radio. Here's an odd one for you, gentlemen. Final Fantasy X, the old Blitzball game, right?
Yeah.
Controversial as it may be, well-loved, well-despised as it may be, depending on who you talk to. It's now part of Star Wars canon.
What?
And I'm sure that's a sentence you did not expect me to say.
What?
So, credit to Games Radar, Mike Chen noticed a series of Easter eggs from the novel, one of the Star Wars novels, Star Wars Brotherhood, focuses on Anakin and Obi-Wan during the Clone Wars. Noticed this reference here. It says there's a reference to a sport called blitzball played in a local lake. Blitzball is basically underwater hockey played as a minigame in Final Fantasy X. As a former NHL writer, I freaking loved blitzball and spent hours winning leagues. That's Mike Chen confirming that it's not a coincidence, and it comes straight from Final Fantasy. So now we technically have blitzball as Star Wars canon, which, as a fan of both, I'm all here for. I think I'm all here for.
And we're going to have Star Wars and Kingdom Hearts, right? It's Kingdom Hearts 4?
Yeah, so. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Probably.
A little more crossover there.
Not a canon dump that I would have expected, Kronos. Not just
sure.
like, oh yeah, people play blitzball in this lake over here.
I'm sure it'd be super relevant to the Kenobi series.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe we'll see blitzball in Jedi Survivor.
Maybe.
I thought it was kind of neat. And, I got to wonder, though, like, did it just sneak under the editor? Like, because if it's a pretty blatant, like, if you use the name Blitzball, like, I'm sure an editor would be like, do we have to talk to Square Enix and make sure it's okay to use that term? Like, do we have to get permission? Or if it just, like, flew under the radar?
They probably didn't know.
Probably not. I'm going to confirm that after it's published.
Blitzball is all it took for Neobar not to be a Star Wars fan, huh?
That's all it took?
The Rise of Skywalker didn't do it for you?
Yeah, don't watch the sequels then. Babylon's Fall Season 2 now underway. Just started 2 days ago. Letting both of you know.
Okay,
This is the season that's extended to the end of November, though, gang, while they kind of reevaluate the future roadmap for the game, which I think is a nice way of saying we're going to close this thing at some point here pretty soon. So, I mean, updates are updates, right?
True.
Sure.
Did either of you ever go back and touch this? Did either of you ever go back and touch it?
No.
No, I haven't yet.
No. I'm never going to touch this thing again. There's no way.
If it was $10, I might pick it up to try it out. But
here's the amazing part to me. You can still download the demo. Like, I thought they would have balanced Wonderworlded the shit out of that demo and just, like, made it disappear real quick.
What demo? There was never a demo. No.
Yeah. It is on sale, actually, Tark. It's on sale for the low price of $38.99 on Steam.
Still too
if
high.
anybody wants to buy it, you can just PayPal me $35.99. And then I'll send you something maybe worth $30.
The last time I played it was when I finished the first look over on MMO Bomb, so yeah.
I tried the beta, and that was enough to be like, I'm gonna hold off on that.
Yeah. We are getting another remake, though. Square Enix confirming Romancing Saga Minstrel Song Remastered is coming out this winter. If you didn't get a chance to play this on the original PS2, and I don't know if either of you did. I did. It's a little weird. This certainly looks better, the trailer you're watching, but it still looks goofy, and that's kind of by design. The characters had a very unique like style to them that you either like thought was adorable or you kind of hated right away. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really wasn't one of the better Romancing Saga games back on PS2, so hopefully there'll be a little bit of changes here. It's going to be on the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 4, Switch, PC, and iOS and Android devices this winter.
I have a Romancing Saga on PS2, but I don't know if it's the same game or not.
There's multiple, so yeah, I think you would remember if you played Minstrel Song. I think you would remember.
It doesn't look familiar, but
it wasn't that great, but
it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, Takal's kind of right. Like, hey, if you're looking for turn-based stuff, this is going to be it. So
your remakes and niche products. There you go.
Let's slide over, gentlemen, and do Love It or Leave It. If you're new around these parts, welcome. Love it or leave it is the way we end every episode of the Relic Grind. It's where I give you something Square Enix related. Could be a feature in a game itself, a press release, a decision Square's made, doesn't matter. And you tell me whether you love it, want more of it, or leave it. Today, sticking with what we've been talking about, a mainline numbered Final Fantasy title that is essentially a single-player game, no party, just you and your hero. I'm making you no fence sitting like some of you were talking about earlier where I'm okay with it. No, love it or leave it. What do you got, Tark?
If it's one or the other, no fence sitting, I guess I have to go leave it. I'm just so ingrained in having a party and having that banter. And I said previously that I feel that that's probably going to be missing from the kind of the heart and soul of a Final Fantasy game. So while I'm okay with the combat being single player, I'll have to leave it for story purposes.
So I have a question. Does 15 fall under this?
No. 15 would still count because there is a party, even if you're not giving them actual commands. Yeah.
Definitely leave it. Yeah, it's for sure leave it. Because I could get behind it if the NPCs are there and you have the banter and it's interesting. Because even Final Fantasy XIV has realized that it's a good thing to have. Look at that's why we like characters like Y'shtola and Thancred.
That's why we have the Scions. Yeah.
They're party members. That's what they are. They even add the trust system to the game. That's to me, that's just part of it, and I'm kind of sad. I really hope that the NPCs in 16 end up being very interesting, because maybe that'll make me feel different. But as right now, I'm gonna say leave it.
Kyle saying leave it. That's not what Final Fantasy is. The newest girl saying love it. Give me different takes on Final Fantasy. And while I can agree with the new girl here as far as I want different takes on Final Fantasy, I kind of want that in my sidebar games. My mainline series, I want party based. I want this. Am I going to like 16? Probably. Am I going to buy it? Definitely. Am I going to enjoy it? Like I said, probably. But there is that when I play a Final Fantasy game, I got this party and he loves her, she loves her, he doesn't know what to do with him. These two don't like each other, but they got to work together. I feel like a lot of narrative potential is missing, and narrative is a huge reason I dive into Final Fantasy. Parties help facilitate that. I'm going to leave it, even though I'm willing to check stuff out. I'm going to leave it. So, wow, clean sweep of the board, all three of us with the leave it. Chat, don't go anywhere. Fresh from MomoCon, she is back, the one and the only Faye Death. How are you, Faye?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well, and I have a very special announcement at the beginning of our stream, so do not miss.
Do not miss. I don't even know what the announcement is, gang, so yeah.
So you have to stick around.
What are you playing today?
Back to the Wonderlands, because I need a little pew-pew in my life, which you'll understand after the announcement. Don't we all?
So don't go anywhere, chat. Faye coming up in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. We, of course, will be doing the Always Online podcast tomorrow over at MMO Bomb, 1 o'clock Eastern. Excuse me. Ooh. Gaming Gumbo on Saturday in the evening here. So don't miss any of that, and then we'll be back next Thursday for another episode of the Relic Grind. Until then, Kronos, where can everybody find you?
Same as always, Twitter. Sure, I'm gonna find something new to complain about with all the stuff that just got announced. So I'm probably gonna go look at some Street Fighter 6 stuff after this and probably be upset, but we'll see.
Yeah, that was a weird trailer.
Tark.
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all at Tarkoth Gaming. Come watch me hopefully kill some dragons.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me right there at Magic Man 1, but more importantly, follow at RC Raideo, so you'll know every time we go live with a podcast or I stream or one of our volunteer streamers, who I love very much, is on camera. Until next time, stay safe, gang. We'll see you on the servers. Later.